NC State lost to Auburn last night. They lost by 10. It was a back-and-forth game. They did find themselves down double digits a bunch of times, but they came back. They had a nice little burst right out of the halftime break. They made it a game at times, but for the most part, Auburn, I think I may have said Arkansas earlier. Auburn was keeping them a at-hands distance, right? They were keeping them at arm's length away. Will Wade, after the game, summed up their loss to Auburn.
I thought we were better tonight. We were better than we were in Hawaii tonight. And we got 4 of our 5 game standards. I mean, the reality is they made some threes and we missed threes. And they made some tough threes. But give Hall and Overton credit. They're 2 great players. And they really did a great job. They did a great job tonight. But I'll say this. I mean, look, we don't ever want to lose, but this was way more encouraging than Hawaii in my mind. Now we got to build from here, but this was progress. We made progress in the last week. It didn't show up on the scoreboard today, but if we can keep making progress, I think we'll like where we'll be.
Progress. Talk about progress. Progress. Listen, that's great. I actually I think what NC State is going through makes sense in a vacuum. Bunch of new players, new system, new coach, new everything, right? It makes sense that they wouldn't be fully formed, at this point in the season. But our expectations were that they would be better from the jump because at every stretch, Will Wade leading up to the season kind of denied our grace. Like, hey, we'll give you some time. When do you think this is a rebuild? How do you plan on using the portal in the future? Like, we wanted to talk about plans long term, and he jumped right in and said, no. We're going to win this year. It's not a rebuild. We're going to win right now. We're going to be among the best teams in the ACC, in the top 4. We're going to be in the NCAA tournament. And they still might be all of those things, but that's now what we're judging you against. Now you have to make up ground to get there. Because after watching particularly the Texas game, where he gave up 100+, and then watching a 2-man scoring show by Auburn last night, each guy having 28, 29, whatever they finished with, it's obvious NC State needs to solve some defensive issues. And at the risk of being called Captain Obvious, it's half the game. There's no doubt in my mind that the offensive talent is there. Matter of fact, I didn't know Kadir Copeland could score like he's been the last few games. He's filling it up. He's being aggressive. We know what Darion Williams can do, especially when he gets going. I think he could be a bit more aggressive in getting to the bucket and everything else. We know Paul McNeil can shoot. Everybody's been telling us all offseason. We know Matt Abel has this quickness, this athletic ability as a 5-star freshman. We know their offensive skill set is there, but I'm looking at it going, do we know they can stop? Do we know when the other team scores 6 straight points, they can buckle down and get a stop? And their rotation is that nobody's playing over 14 minutes a game that's taller than 6'9". You can have all the length, all of the perimeter defense that you have. They need help sometimes. They need rim protection. They need dudes behind them. There are flaws thus far, and you can't argue against it. There's no such thing as a perfect roster. There are flaws in the last 4 games that have emerged quite aggressively for NC State. That makes sense. Unless you told me not to expect it. Unless you told me there was something better than that. If I go to, and I don't even know if this is the proper term, right? If I go to, I'm a big stand-up comedy fan. If I go to a stand-up comedy show for somebody who I don't know, right? This isn't somebody that tours. This isn't somebody that had a Netflix special. This isn't, and I'm just going and seeing what's up. I'm going to expect there to be points, jokes that I don't think are funny because I've been to enough stand-up comedy shows that it's rare somebody bats 1,000. Unless you're one of the legends. But if somebody I trust, somebody who I think knows comedy, somebody that's maybe seen more comedy than I will ever see, came up to me and said, no, you need to see this guy. I know he's an unknown. He's hilarious. Every joke, I was rolling. Well, guess what? You may have just made it very difficult for that person to have a successful night in my eyes. I think that's a bit of what's happening here with State. It's actually, I'll use an even better stand-up comedy reference that I should have started with. Jerry Seinfeld, best, whatever, touring, money-making, whatever. I was watching a documentary from a while ago, and the MC said, hey, Jerry, how do you want me to introduce you? He was like, what do you mean? He's like, do you want me to say, star of the biggest show? Do you want me to say most lucrative touring comic of all? What do you want me to say? He was like, oh, I got you. Say, and next, Jerry Seinfeld. He's like, I don't want any accolades. I don't want the greatest comedian in the history of the world, because then if my joke is only a 99 out of 100, people are going, that wasn't the best in the world, right? Like Will Wade could have undersold and over-delivered. He could have said, and the NC State Wolfpack basketball team. But instead he said, one of the top teams in the ACC, a team that we are expecting to be this and expecting to be that, the next best, the star of the greatest sitcom television show, most lucrative in the history of the world, the NC State Wolfpack. And they came out and they lost to Seton Hall. They squeaked by Boise State. I know it was double digits, but it wasn't as aggressive as that. Lost to Texas, lost to Auburn, and now we're going, that joke wasn't that funny. I chuckled, but I was expecting to guffaw. And again, we don't know Will Wade here in Raleigh as a long-term coach, right? He hasn't been anywhere for more than 2 years in a while, right? We don't know what he is as a long-term coach. So maybe it's all part of the plan, right? Maybe making this feel like a disappointment is part of what he was aiming to do. Maybe he wants that weight room to be angry at lifts right now. Maybe he wants practices to be more intense because these players are hearing it from all angles. Like, oh, you're not what you thought. Oh, that NIL money, what'd that go for? Maybe he's raising the temperature in the room intentionally. Maybe. We got to stick around to find out. Right? Let's talk about like stand-up comedy special, right? We'll be right back after this. Stick around. You got to wait until they play. Kansas on December 13th is really the next time we're going to see them tested. They play UNC Asheville and Liberty. Call those workshops, right? Call those going back to the drawing board. Kansas, you have Ole Miss right before Christmas, Texas Southern in between, and then you're into the ACC schedule. I still believe that they have a ton of talent on that roster. I still believe their offensive potential is crazy. We'll see if they can fix the rest. And maybe they got to play some guys with some more size. We'll see. They have some that are on the bench, some guys that are playing, 14-ish minutes, but they might need a little bit more size. I don't know if that's the issue. Again, Will Wade has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know, but I can tell you losing 3 out of 4 with the way I was expecting this season to go is not the way to build hype. Maybe to build motivation.